This is June.
Hey, folks, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Shifts are here. We'll start off by roll call.
Anchor.
Here.
Earl.
Here.
Keo.
Here.
Meek.
Here.
Myers.
Here. This time I'll open up the floor for anybody who'd like to make any public comments to the commission. I'm not necessarily going to take any action on it, but we're here to listen. Public comment. Okay, we'll move into the approval of the minutes for the May 12th, 2021 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Andy.
Second.
Second by Gordy. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. An introduction. Chief.
All right, good morning. So Austin, come on up here. Austin Brace started with us June 1st, and he's on his 2 weeks of days for his initial orientation that he'll be assigned to the blue shift. He has some previous experience with McMillan Fire, as well as in the Army Reserves as a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist. So Jody, I think you had your hazmat replacement guy here. Has an associate degree from Fox Valley, recently completed paramedic. We're excited to have Austin on board. I know he's excited to be here. And with that, I ask for your approval and hiring of Austin Brace.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Keel, second by Earl for approval. Hiring Austin Brace, the firefighter paramedic. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, you're lucky.
That makes it official.
Oh, not yet.
Okay.
You go first.
Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, announce your name.
I, Austin Brace,
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I'll support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and will perform the duties to which I have been selected
and perform the duties that I have been selected
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you.
Jeez, didn't even hurt.
Austin, I have a question.
Yes,
Have you read the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin?
not in its entirety, no.
Municipal code,
Not in its entirety.
the thing you've sworn to uphold.
Great, Austin, welcome aboard. Keith, you have some recognition you'd like to
We do.
tell everybody about.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, obviously 2020 was a very challenging year. One of our duties is to go into the schools and talk to all the elementary kids, K through 6 on fire safety. We typically do it in October. This last year, because of COVID, we couldn't do face-to-face education with the kids. The Public Education Committee brainstormed some different ideas and came up with creating their own video. Previous meetings, we shared the video with the commission, and if you haven't seen it, we can certainly get it out to you. Hannah Patterson, John Altman, and Matt Wolf were really the brains behind the video. They wrote it, they storybooked it, they have little drawings all on the board. Made sure that everything went without a hitch. Aside from them, Anthony Halloran allowed us to use his house to smoke up and to do the initial search, and we're thankful for that. Anthony also showed his excellent acting skills during that video. It really was a department-wide effort. We had several department members participate in it, multiple shifts working on it, and it was a great product in the end, very well received. So with that, Tom Laux, our communications director, submitted that video, kitchen safety with Freddie the fire truck, to the community media awards group, and through the Media Fest this year, that video won an award of excellence for public safety announcement in the amateur category. Besides the excellent acting that was in the video, Matt Wolf, right over here, took his talents behind the computer and did all the editing, all the sound effects. Most of the sounds that you hear in the video are not live at the time. They were all things that Matt put in afterwards. And it took Matt a lot of nights, weekends to get that video in its final product. So with that, we're very pleased with this award. It shows the drive and the determination by members of this department to continually search for new ideas and to get it out there. So we do also want to thank Tom Laux and Dave Bennett from communications for the use of the computers and the guidance. Without that, I think Matt would still be working on the editing. And so this will also be presented to the Common Council by Tom on June 22nd. Tom is going to present it to the council. So with that, congratulations to everybody who was involved in this. It really is a great honor. Now we just have to find a nice place to display it.
Congratulations. Good job.
There you go, Matt. Oh, yeah. Don't drop it.
Sure it's turned around the right way.
Yeah. All righty.
Great job.
That's good.
I'm sure the public will enjoy that when if they haven't seen it, then they do see it. So they'll surely see it if they watch the council meeting on the 22nd.
Yep. Yeah, and the video is out on our YouTube page.
Thank you. Good work. Move into the bills for the approval of fire department bills. Chief Owen.
All righty, two sets of bills. Two sets of bills in front of you. One signed by Commissioner Panger on May 19th and the other by Commissioner Meek on June 1st. Couple of things to bring to light. On 8D, you'll see a charge of $5,200 and some extra to Lexipol. That is our payment for our policy implementation manual that we are doing with them, similar to what the police department has. I will say that going through the Lexipol policy updates has been a good thing. They have a lot of items in their policies that we're just taking as is because these are put together by professionals, by lawyers, and they are legally defensible policies as they're written. We have certain policies that have been sent out to different individuals in the city for review. And then once we get policies back, they'll be coming to this body for AD national hose testing, 7,300. We're required to have all of our fire hose tested every year. Same with our ladders, that's coming up yet. We used to do the hose testing ourselves, but because of limited drying capacity of hoses, it would take us 1 to 2 months to get everything done. This is done in a day and a half. So it's well worth it. And then you also see priority business systems for the station access system. We recently updated the ID card system for the station so that we are the same as all the other departments in the city now, all the other buildings, and we have easier time getting things repaired because it's a local business as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval.
I entertain a motion to approve the fire department goals.
Move for approval.
Motion by Pinker, second by Keel. Are there any questions, comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I notice on 8B, Scott, you got $540 to Amazon. And this is just a comment more than anything else. All of that stuff, I think, could have been bought locally. And I would think that if it's possible to buy it locally, it would be a benefit to the city. No big deal, just a reminder, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, we do try to buy locally, but we also look at cost.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's cheaper to get things through Amazon than it is.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, no, we definitely purchase locally whenever.
If I look on 8C, under a complete office of Wisconsin, that the $221, there's a substantial amount being spent on toilet bowl cleaner. And I suspect that affirms what the police department has said about the fire department all along.
Yeah. We're not going there.
That's good. When you say on 8C, update to door system, what does that mean?
So the ID access system, the card system,
Oh, okay, all right.
we are all upgraded now.
All right, I'm fine with that. And then the next question I have about the bills. Oh, there's an email in here about approving bills electronically. Do we know if our policy allows for that?
Probably go a little more hand in hand with the city policy has been changed to recently. To allow for it, but I haven't heard that question before, so I'll try to get you an answer, a specific answer.
I think we should look so that we're consistent with our policy. I don't remember. Yeah. And then the next question has to do with the letter that precedes this set of bills. May 19th. You see that letter?
Yep.
And then we've got a similar letter on June 2nd preceding the next set of bills.
Yep.
The two are exactly the same. Shouldn't there be some change?
No, only because these numbers all come from finance reports. And so the latest report that Lori had received was the April report. So we don't have a May report to report to June. They tell us with the new finance software, it's going to be better in the long run. But right now we're still learning it. So.
Okay, because this letter on June 2nd in front of that set of bills really doesn't mean anything.
No, it is exactly the same.
All right. And I don't want to be picky, but you see, I had time to look at this.
Yeah.
Didn't used to. Look on 8J. Nearly as I can figure. And the difference there is a $73.85 egg timer.
Oh, yeah. That was Steve's thing. They call it the egg timer, but in the ambulance, in order to keep the lights on in the back of the ambulance while the crews are working or checking out, they have the turn dial, and that's what the egg timer is.
It's a specialized switch that allows the lights to be on the ambulance while the ambulance is off, so they can do their checkouts every morning. It's called an egg timer because you just turn the dial and it clicks down.
You think I didn't read these? All right. Merkel Company power packs for the 4-fold doors. Yes. Is it coming time where those doors now need maintenance? This reflects that.
These doors continue to be an ongoing issue. Right now, we don't know what happened. We don't know if there was a power surge again to the building or what, but our fire pole, the motor won't shut off. It keeps running, and the doors, some work, some don't. So Merkel is looking at why that is happening right now. But yeah, we're starting to get to the point that we've been here 11 years now, that the doors are mechanicals, need operating and stuff.
Okay, that's fine. That's all my questions.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Banker,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Keo,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Yep, thank you.
Approval of the police department bills. Chief Zeps.
All right, good morning. You have two sets of bills in front of you. One approved by Commissioner Earl on the 19th of May and one approved by Commissioner Keo on the 3rd of June. One item of note I'd like to point out is on 9K, you're going to see an expenditure of $2,989.24. Those are just additional K9 t-shirts that we purchased and we sell. Our lieutenant who runs a K9 program, we're currently looking at ways of exploring replacement K9s and or adding K9s. So we're beginning some fundraising efforts with that. So that's what that expenditure would be. That expenditure actually came out of the donated funds, and all the profits will go back into that same donated account. So with that, I would look for your approval and would be happy to answer any questions.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the police department bills.
Move for approval.
Motion by Banker, second by Meek. Are there any questions or comments?
Just a couple of really quick ones.
Go ahead.
9I. Enrollment fee for the federal 1033 program. That's just to keep that sort of open and available. So you've got a fee you got to pay on a regular basis to stay eligible.
Correct.
Okay. What is, I think it's Cradle Point.
Real point is the internet access points that we have in each squad. So that would be a subscription to those to allow us to have internet access in the squads.
I think we have a drone fund.
There was donated money for the drones that came in last year. So when they reference a drone fund, that would be whatever was left over from the donated fund.
All right, that's fine. And those last questions were from the bills that I signed. Did they ask them that?
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Banker, Earl,
Yes.
Keo,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes. Thank you, Chief. Fire department activities, Chief Owen.
All right, so several ride-alongs again this month, or in May, for paramedic students. It's kind of the final month before they take their national registry exam. We have that, the vaccination clinics at the fairgrounds in May. We did have 2 more up here. May 19th was the last one, and Wood County has since ended the vaccination clinics as they were being done. They are now focusing more on individual businesses to bring clinics to the business itself. On 10B, each shift went down to the airport and did some training with Lifeline 3 crew. It was very well received. They trained on setting up landing zones, patient care, transferring between their unit and ours, and a lot of different topics related to that. Throughout the month, we had access to the South Building at Marshfield Medical Center. That building is going to be raised. We were able to get in there and do some training. Each floor was assigned to a particular shift, and they could go in and do forcible entry, search and rescue. They could do anything they wanted except flow water and break outside windows. So they were in there doing some training. They also did some training, rescue off of a roof type of stuff. So it was very good training. They also did some rope rescue training going off the side of the building. And again, very well received. On 10C, we had firefighter interviews. We had invited, I believe it was 10. We ended up interviewing 5. And of that, 3 are currently qualified, and reference checks are in progress. So with that, the monthly statistics are in there, a couple of thank you cards, a couple of checks. And with that, you have the question.
Is the training complete with the medical center?
I don't think so. I think they still have some availability. It's supposed to be coming down, I think sometime later this month or early next, they're going to start doing what they need to do.
That's the old Salt Tower, the one.
Yeah, the old.
ER was.
Yep.
There's a possibility it could go actually till August.
Oh,
last I saw.
But you're done training on it?
They're going to continue training as long as we can.
Oh, give me a jingle sometime. I'd like to.
Okay.
I've been on
Yeah, they usually put it on the calendar. Of course, whenever they say they're going to go do training, it goes crazy. So.
there. All right, yeah, let me know.
Scott?
Yes.
2 questions for you. On May 13, Blue Shift participated in training on facility and trap.
That's a paramedic.
Yeah, I believe that's an EMS. So one of the training platforms we have online is PhoneFrat. They can go online, and there are live classes, and then there are also just online recorded classes. That sounds like one of the classes that was provided. Blue Shift has been very active about going on PhoneFrat and doing a lot of ALS training. So I believe that's what that is.
Then on the 26th, Deputy Chief Liddy meets with Tony Nelson from Marshfield Utilities for the annual MU gas pipeline safety review. Does Wisconsin Gas conduct their own pipeline safety program that we attend?
I don't remember if they do an in-person. We do get several annual mailings from pipeline companies, Enbridge, Wisconsin Gas, that have like safety protocols and stuff, and we have to send something back that says yes, we've read this and stuff. But every year we meet face to face, or this year by Zoom with utilities.
Then on the EMS responses, for the July meeting, half the year behind us.
Mhm.
Could you include a city map with the aldermanic districts and place the responses within the districts so we got a better visual?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the fire department activities.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Meek, second by Keel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chief Owen, next item, the resignation and retirement.
Yes, so you do not have a letter from Rodney in your packet, but Rodney Bauer started with our department May 7th, 1997. He retired on June 2nd, 2021 with 24 years of service. He's been a true asset to the department. He's, well, he was one of our two mechanics that were pretty fluent in engine repairs. Our other one was Dave Patton, who has since retired as well. But Rodney, when a problem arose, not only in the engine, but in the station, Rodney was able to pretty much fix it. And if it was not able to be fixed by Rodney, it had to go out because he pretty much knew how to fix anything. So he is going to be missed. Wish him the best luck in his future endeavors. And I know, just knowing Rodney, he will be around here a lot. Rodney is very passionate about the fire service, and he's going to be missed. So with that, I ask that you accept Rodney Bauer's retirement / resignation notice effective June 2.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Motion by Earl, second by Meek. Sorry. Any other questions or comments? Could I add to the motion with regrets? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Anchor,
Aye.
Earl,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Mike, can I ask a question
Yes,
to
sir.
the chief? Is it possible to bring him in as a occasional employee? Is that possible? And is there budget money that would allow you to do any of that?
For like contracting for maintenance and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he'd be cheaper than sending it out someplace.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I would think that we could, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how that would work if he has to set up business stuff or whatever, but
Yeah. I'd explore it.
yeah, and he did offer, he said that if something happens and we need help as far as repairing a pump or something, that he could certainly come and look. So, but that's something that we'll tackle.
Okay.
The next item, another resignation.
Yeah.
Chief.
Anthony Luchini started with us August 10th of 2015 and recently completed his 5th year of service. Anthony resigned with his effective date on June 2nd. He did not resign because he is upset with the department or anything. He resigned for personal reasons. And he is working at another government agency as we speak. He made a lot of contributions to the department, especially in the EMS world. He came to us from Door County, where he was the deputy director for emergency management over there. And he has helped us establish and improve EMS protocols and just the EMS side of the house in general. His talents will be missed. And with that, I ask that you accept his resignation effective the end of his shift on June 2nd as well.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Okay,
Motion by,
let's go with the regrets right away too.
motion by Meek, second by Earl. To accept the resignation with regrets. Any questions? Roll call.
Anchor.
Aye.
Earl,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. Thank you. And of course, with resignations and retirements comes permission to hire 3 replacements.
Yeah, so with Rodney and Anthony's resignations from the department, we are vacant those 2 positions, plus we are also vacant 1 position yet from November that we agreed not to fill until June for budgetary reasons. So with that, I ask for your permission to refill those 3 positions so I can take it to the finance, budget, personnel, and common council for their approval and bring us up to somewhat full staff.
You've been running kind of busy the last few days in particular. I suppose it would help to have those extra people.
Yeah, they've been steady. Even
Yeah.
Steve had to go on an ambulance call yesterday because we were so busy.
Okay, with saying that, I entertain a motion to give permission to hire 3 replacements.
So moved.
Motion by Keel, second by Meek. Any other questions, comments?
Scott,
Mhm.
what is the personnel pool out there right now? Is it large,
It's-
small?
It's very, very slim. We have 3 qualified candidates on our list right now. I just got an email from Fox Valley from the hiring that they're doing for us. And there were 135, I think, applicants, 44 to our department. And of that 44, I believe only 13 are meeting our minimum qualifications right now. And most of them are from the eastern side of the state. They're from the Fox Valley region. The 3 candidates that we have in our current list are all local people. And that's one thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to recruit more local people that we know are going to stay and have ties to the community and they truly want to be. But yeah, the numbers are way down. And I know for PD as well, they are way down.
Statewide as well.
That's nation. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anchor,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. We'll move into capital improvement plan for the fire department, Chief Owen.
All right. Yeah, so the memo that I put in the packet is very similar to the one that I did last year, made some minor adjustments. This is part of the 2022 to 2026 CIP program for the city. Several items are included in there in a replacement program, in a rotation, if you will. So we don't have the unanticipated needs or major purchases in the future. Everything should be spelled out for us. Total of the 5-year plan is just over $2 million. This includes $400,000 for the training center down the road, as well as over $700,000 for replacement of Squad 1, which is 2024. This was approved by the CIP meeting by the common council on the 13th and 25th, excuse me, and then again approved last night by the whole common council. And with that, I'm not going to go through every single line item, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if I can't, I'll pass it on to Steve and maybe he'll be able to.
Are there any questions in particular?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill.
First, on the Lucas device. Just as a somebody who watches Night Watch. That device has been highlighted in a couple of their programs. It is really a neat device. Confined space communication system. What are we looking at there?
So that system we currently use is 20 plus years old. It's the original system from when we started communication or started confined space. When we make an entry into a confined space, it's a hardwired communication system that's integrated with the airline that the crews use when they go down, and it allows communication because they really can't use their portables underground very easily. And this is just really a touch your chest and talk type of system. In case they're stuck with this, they can go pick it up.
No handhelds, no nothing mounted. It's basically like a hard hat diagram.
Yeah, it's got like throat mics,
Okay.
and then pseudo speaker. Yep.
Then squad 7 replacement.
What, car seven?
Car 7.
Yes.
We looking at a pickup, Suburban, or a SUV?
We're probably going to get another pickup. I don't know if it'll be a half ton or not. It might be 3/4. I'm not sure what Deputy Chief Floody is looking at, but pickups seem to work very well for us for pulling equipment from scenes and other.
Do we have a vehicle that's currently what I'll refer to as a squad car? It's currently set up so that we have a just flip the tailgate up and we got a command post.
No.
Any thought about doing that?
We have looked at that in the past. We haven't done anything. Usually, if we have a scene that's big enough where we're setting up a command post, we're going to pull squad 1 in, and that will act as command post.
Then that brings me to squad 1. That's a Marion Body Works unit, right?
Correct.
Now, obviously, that's going to have to go out on bid, but for the period of time we've used that, how is that vehicle? What kind of quality do we have from Marion Body?
It's actually been a very dependable rig. It's been very, very good. It has low miles. It doesn't get used a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why we've agreed to defer it back. But we've had no complaints with Marion and the squad itself.
Okay. And training facility. There is a mention here about having 2 bays at the facility. Does Midstate have their own apparatus that they're going to move into that facility, or is that going to be house our apparatus during training?
Kind of both. So Midstate does have their own engines, and depending on the classes that are being held, they will bring one up and store it in there. Otherwise, if we are doing training, we will take our rigs down there and they can store them inside or whatever. The other thing with that is in the event something happens, like with the apparatus floor, where we had to, when we did the floor, we had to farm out equipment to different areas. So we had an engine down at wastewater. We had an engine over at street division. They could go down there instead of having to search for places to put our equipment if we have to.
I also have questions on this.
Just a quick one. And Steve, this is more for you. New ambulance is $240,000. Does that include what it takes to equip it to make it usable?
So mainly that's just the ambulance and some of the equipment that's inside, but not all of it.
So no Wimfus device, no power lift, no.
Then I believe the last one I budgeted, that cost did include the power lift. I've also started budgeting to replace those with each new ambulance we get. The last ambulance we added was a little bit more expensive because we added, so all the equipment we had to purchase additionally.
Yeah.
From this point forward, when we replace an ambulance, we pull as much as we can from the old ambulance to restock the new one.
Someday, it would be interesting for the commission to know what the real cost of a new ambulance is. It's not just the vehicle, it's all of the other stuff.
I can put that together.
Well, you know, there's no rush for it. It's just, it seems to me that we want to make decisions about buying a new ambulance or making a decision that's larger than the cost of the vehicle. And it'd be nice to know.
Right now, if it works with your timeline, right now we are, ambulance 98 is due to be replaced in 2023, I believe. So next year, I would be putting a committee together to look at new ambulances. I can put that information together as we go through the planning process.
That'd be good. That'd be helpful. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the fire department CIP? Pretty much for information's sake. If you do have any questions along the way, obviously get a hold of the chief or the deputy chief. Okay, but it was all, if I understand you correctly, it was all approved last night.
All approved last night.
Yeah. Thank you. Police department activities while you're still there. Chief Zeps.
Fairly routine month in terms of activities and training. As we approach the end of the year here, you're going to see officers making sure that they have the 24 hours. It was a little difficult coming off of COVID with people trying to get online training and everything. So there's a relatively large amount of training on here. One thing I will point out is you're going to see two meetings, 15A and 15B, in reference to a joint SRT formation. That's headed by Lieutenant Sheridan and Lieutenant Esser, and what that is something we've talked about for some time, and it's an exploratory type initiative with Wood County and Wisconsin Rapids in terms of forming a joint special response team. Most counties have something like that. Anything much more than a kind of a low-level search warrant is going to require more resources than any one of the departments have. All three of these departments do have an SRT team, so something that's been on the back burner. We've had some meetings, and I actually have Lieutenant Esser here. Something he was fairly passionate about, as am I, when he was a SWAT commander. So if you have any questions on that, he would be happy to answer them, or if I can answer, I certainly will. With that, again, I'd be happy to answer any other questions, and we'll look to have them placed on file.
Any questions about the police department activities? We will do that when we place these on file. Thank you. We're fortunate this morning to have with us General Graycoop from a HR director for the city marshal for discussion and possible action, but not necessarily on the selection process of the police chief. She prepared a packet for you. We discussed this between us just briefly. It'll be informational for you, and certainly ask her any questions that you might have. Okay. Morning.
Morning. So when Commissioner Myers had reported to me regarding the recruitment, there's really two issues that need to be decided with this position. First and foremost, really needs to be how you want to begin the process for recruitment of this. In the past, in the group pack, you'll see that there's kind of been a blend of different avenues that this group has taken in filling chief positions. In 2013, it was a RFP done, and an external consultant was used in hiring Chief Kate at the time. That consultant was McGrath Consulting. In 2014, I believe that position, that information or chief position was completed internally through human resources. And then in 2018, we had an appointed position, so we didn't have a formal recruitment process. So we've kind of got a gamut of options for you to choose from. So what I wanted to do is just spend a little bit of time walking through what that process is. And you're gonna, in the packet, there's a ton of information. There's a sample RFP that was done by the city. There's a more recent RFP that was pulled from another organization. And then there's some flyers, I want to say, that are basically job postings for police chief type positions that are, if you use an external consultant, what they would look like. That's something I think we could do internally if you would choose that that's something that you want to have. So just kind of keep that in mind. Really the things that you want to look at is timing and how you want to complete the process. So the first part of that is planning. And I think what we want to do to get started, or what I'd recommend that we do, is schedule a meeting with PFC members to kind of walk through what your goals are for this position. What are the traits and characteristics of the person that you think would be successful in this role? And then get some additional input and feedback, both from staff within the PD as well as city officials. So that, you know, really could be a bit of a formal process to ensure that we're getting an all-encompassing look at what we need to do. In your packet, you do see that there is a job description. That would be something that you'll want to review and ensure that there are no changes needed at this time with that job description. And then kind of look at the highlights of the department. What are kind of the good and the bad things that you want to include in that job posting, things that you want to keep in mind in terms of challenges that the department might be facing, so that as we create interview questions and those types of things, that we're incorporating those into that process. In regard to timeline, if you would choose to go with an external consultant to do an RFP process, keep in mind that you'd have to plan a little additional time into that process, because it would take, you know, a little bit of time to get that RFP finalized. We would issue it. A proposal for an RFP for an external consultant is usually 2 or 3 weeks before we look for our proposals being due. We would have the selection of firms. This group would probably come together to meet to go through each of the proposals. And then determine who we want to interview and bring them on site. So you're adding, you know, probably a good 4 to 6 weeks in that process at minimum in regard to an RFP. Once we actually have determined where the job is going to be posted, that posting should go up for 3 to 5 weeks. When you're looking for, again, the position, I included those sample recruitment ads, but we would have to finalize those recruitment ads. And if we would choose to do this internally, I think we could probably work with our communications department to put together some professional external recruiting documents. One of the things that I found to be very successful when we're hiring department and division heads is we put together a panel type interview. So what would happen in those scenarios is HR or an external consultant would do the initial screening of the candidates. We would narrow that pool down to 3 or 5 candidates. And of course, this group would be the group that would review the resumes prior to that. But what we found to be pretty successful is multiple panel interviews with a presentation and sometimes some sort of activity, just to be able to get a full gamut in terms of how that would look. And it's usually panels anywhere between 10, sometimes 12 people. So that the individuals on this body could participate. You could have some city officials, you could have some community members, and then get a broad look and kind of be able to come to a consensus in terms of who the top candidate would be. I would typically recommend 3 to 5 top candidates in regard to the number of people that you want to bring in or select for this scenario. So it's, you know, just a really high level overview of what that recruitment process would be. Keep in mind, once you select the top candidate, there still has to be a background check. We still have to go through a psych evaluation, a physical, and the standard reference check that we do for all new hires. So just kind of keep those pieces in mind. This is a little bit of a lengthy process, but I would prefer to make sure that we kind of walk through each step logically so that we do it and hire the right candidate into that position. So I'm certainly happy to take any questions that you have. And again, if you would like to take some time to digest some of this, take more time to look through the packet, we can certainly schedule a special meeting so that we can walk through really how this process will be going forward on a smaller basis.
Yeah, it is a lot of information to look at. I had a sneak peek at it overnight, but obviously there's going to be some questions and comments from the material that we were given. But as far as the timeline, initially, we're not under the gun. I mean, we're under good guidance right now with departments in good hands right now, but we do have to move forward with this. And these are a couple of the options for us to consider. And been very helpful, just the information we've gotten already. And but I think what it's going to come down to is take a look at what you've got today. We can schedule a special meeting sometime in the next 30 days before the next commission meeting or at the next commission meeting. But it is something that we want to be a priority. So a special meeting might work out best. And we get some input from, in the meantime, from different departments, so they can participate in the meeting as well. And get some input on what we're looking for and how we want to go about doing it. Obviously, the two options are we just have HR do it, which I feel very confident with. We've had outside firms do the recruiting and helping us with the selection in the past. I wasn't impressed with that myself, but that's just my personal feeling. But as far as the timeline goes, like I said, we don't have to hire somebody today. We've got time to go through all this and do it right. So, any of you have any comments initially? Bill?
Back when Chief Cleveland left for us, at that time the commission conducted the whole thing by itself. I certainly don't want to go that route. That was time consuming, extreme amount of stress, and we don't need that. Though there are some people out there that have been rather adamant, and these are people outside of the local area, that if you are a full power commission, that it is your responsibility and you don't let anybody else get in on it. Both chiefs here are familiar with Dr. Harry Carter, who's one of the fire service gurus. He's one of the proponents that if you're a commission that has full authority, you keep everybody else out of it. My personal preference is that we deal with a professional recruiting firm and let them suffer the stress. Qualifications, I think we're going to have to sit down and very carefully look at what type of qualifications we want in terms of command background, field background, education, and so forth. And then how far out do we want to conduct our search? How far out do we want to throw the net? Do we want to do this North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, nationwide on this? Are we looking for somebody that was in a large department, wants to come down smaller? Do we want somebody from a department our size? Who exactly are we looking for? That's I think as critical as determining what process we're going to use. And then whichever way we do this, I'm a firm believer that the applicants must receive a letter either from the commission, from human resources, signed by a council president, city administrator, somebody completely describing what our local political situation has been. We do not need somebody coming into an interview or somebody out there doing their own extensive research and finding out we've had some problems. That would not do our reputation any good. That word would get out rather quickly. So something like that has to be sent out. I'll go right on the record now. If we don't have such a letter, I will not approve any of the process. That's all I'm going to say for the time being.
Anybody else have any initial feelings on how we're moving to go forward on this? All right. Any preference to having a separate meeting or making it part of the next commission meeting?
I like a special meeting.
Special meeting.
I would.
That seemed to be the consensus. So we'll look forward to setting something up for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Would that work? And to get whoever you feel would be involved, should be involved, and for input and make the decision at that time, how we want to proceed. So, okay. Any other comments? And I want to thank you. You've always been very helpful and appreciate that. One point I wanted to make, it was a different HR department back then than what it is today too. We're involved with the hiring process, but Chief Cleveland left. So
we haven't said anything about police departments yet.
well, it's the next thing on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda yet.
It's the next thing on the agenda.
Oh, when we get to it.
I wish I could have moved Jen up a little bit on the agenda, but everybody ought to have the opportunity to spend some quality time with the police department. This is your opportunity. Okay, thanks, Jen. As noted, the next item on the agenda is the capital improvement plan for the police department, Chief Zeps.
Okay, much of it's redundant to what Chief Owen said as far as the approval last night. When we move forward with the CIP, it centers around, on the EMS side, it centers around the replacement of the emergency sirens, of which you will see 3 of them. And those go by 15-year increments. Once the end of life service agreement ends, we replace them. So you'll see 3 of those over the next 5 years. We also have on the PD investigative side, we were budgeting 1 vehicle a year. We've backed that down to 1 every other year. So you'll see after 2024, we're going to go into an every other year rotation. We've got a very new detective fleet at this point. So talking with the detective, the Lieutenant Bureau, we decided that was probably a place where we could save some money, and we were making some unnecessary purchase there moving forward. It was a good initiative in the first place because it really did get our fleet switched over to where we needed it to be. On the ordinance side, you will see 1 vehicle, and that is budgeted for 2022. That is typically on a 7-year rotation. And when we look at that, that's going to be something hopefully quite a bit different than what you see now. That cargo van that we've kind of cobbled together really is not popular among the 2 ordinance officers we have, and I concur with that. It's what you're doing is you're basically taking something that's not designed for that, and you're trying to make it that. So it's really not an effective type vehicle. So what we're looking at is something more designed for ordinance control, which would be some sort of a pickup truck with cages actually built into the back of the pickup. So those are some things that we're looking at as far as pricing. Finally, on the patrol squad side, we are going to stick with the 3 patrol squad switchover every year. And the reason for that is I'm also very passionate about equipment that works. Those patrol cars take a relatively decent beating. Part of that is because they're ran 24/7. We don't have the garage that had been in the CIP before. Some of that was taken out, and speaking to Dan Connect, because of the state of where the department is, that could always be put back in the CIP next year, and also the discussions of the full remodel. So there was some unknowns, and me coming into this kind of quasi-involved or not, we're stuck on the vehicle side this year. So the grand total for the next 5 years is $923,000, and I would be happy to answer any questions on that.
Was yours all approved last night too? Are there any questions with Chief Zeps?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, first, thank you for replacing my siren. I'm 2 blocks away from that one that just needed replacement from the minute it was installed.
So you want it louder?
No, I'm a different ones in that.
Sure.
European high lows. Now, ordinance vehicle.
Yes.
I understand the need to change that. I understand the complaints Bob and Caleb had over that. But I do have 2 requests regarding this vehicle. 1, please change the color scheme. So it is, they provide a unique community service. I think they should have something that labels them as being a unique part of the department. And the other thing is, let's get a new name. They are not ordinance control. They don't control a single ordinance. For the most part, they are a community servants. Get this one out. Community service division of the department. And I would like to see a name change, and I would like to see some kind of colors that make them very unique.
Pink.
We could go with Battenberg squares, like they've got in England, which would be very unique.
Be careful because you're telling me the sky's the limit here.
Well, I'll tell you what, for the first years that I was here, I couldn't figure out just how much ammunition the department needed a truck to haul it around.
And a forklift.
You know, I spent too much time in military history. Ordnance doesn't mean rules.
Right. Hey, get back to us in the future with some suggestions. For name and for color scheme or whatever.
Yeah, I am familiar with the community service officer title. That's what a lot of departments use. I'm a supporter of that. I think it fits. So that's certainly something we could take a look at.
Put that on future agenda. Is there any other discussion on the CIP for the police department?
I should know this. What are the rules that says this is a CIP item and this is an operations item?
I believe it's a cost of 10,000, puts it at a CIP project or a CIP approval.
Yeah, 10,000, and it has to be like a piece of equipment or something like that. It can't be like a $10,000
subscription
or something like that. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 10,000 is the magic number.
Yeah, I should know that.
Well, the CIP process takes basically a whole year to put together, correct?
Yeah, I
you'll
mean,
be submitting your new stuff pretty soon again.
The CIP starts usually formally beginning of the year. I know here we pretty much do budget and CIP year round. You know, we start establishing ideas and stuff early. Even though this one was just approved, we'll start in again, reviewing everything probably September or so. And then even budget, which is going to be a little different this year because of the new software. After the budget comes to this body in July, it goes through all the approvals. We typically, January 1, have pretty good idea of what we're doing again for the following year. It's just it's an ongoing thing. So.
Has the process changed recently that we actually got this, which was approved already by the council and nothing prior to that? I mean, it's like the cart before the horse kind of thing. It's more of an information for us instead of being involved with the commission being involved with the CIP process.
This is part of the learning curve for me, but my understanding is that they're still part of the CIP project, although everything in here is part of our police department budget.
Yeah.
Anything under tax levy
Right.
goes.
So those are things you would see in the police department budget. And historically, I don't believe they had to go into the CIP because they were in the police department budget, but because of that change, they're now listed under CIP, even though they're also independently in our budget.
Just a comment. Both the police department and the fire department spent considerable effort and time on developing long-range, long-term plans. And I think at some point relatively soon, we need to get back to those. And in the CIP budget, you would look for congruity between your long-term plan and what you project out to 2026 in your CIP proposal. I'd like us to think about, because right, the two CIP plans that we've seen this morning, they're pretty straightforward, but it would be possible to put in a CIP proposal something that has implications, long-term implications for the planning of the department. And certainly while we don't have anything to say about the CIP dollars, we do have something to say about the direction the departments take as expressed in that CIP budget. Does that make sense? Bill, are you following? You know, think about that, and maybe we can talk about it one of these 3 days.
Well, that's why I was asking that, because I just go back to when they were trying to introduce a new fire station into the CIP. And, you know, did the commission have input before they went to fight for a new building or not? Or was it just the chief's job back then to do that? And, you know, meaning, is there a plan that the commission wants to move forward and be included in the CIP, rather than like now we just today learned what's going to be in the CIP for the fire department or the police department.
And I think that's, as far as I can give you my 2 cents on that, that's easily fixable. When we're asked to submit CIP projects, it's nothing to forward to the PFC. I mean, for me in the future, when this comes due next year, that would just be something that I hadn't considered or was told to do. So that's easy on my end.
Well, when you say, you know, we decided we'd delay buying a certain kind of vehicle because we're up, that's an important decision to make, and it's important to the city. You know, and I think we all agree with it, so there's no problem with it. But I remember when there was a decision to buy SUVs, and there was feedback from the council that was not a bad idea. And the police department came to the commission with a changed plan. Not that the council had said it shouldn't happen, but there was concern about it. And so the chief changed the plan, and the commission said, no, leave the SUVs in. The argument for them makes sense. We're going to continue. We need to know, I mean, there are all kinds of places, especially when it comes to buildings. You put a new building up, it's not just the cost of the building. It has to do with personnel. A new building reflects on everything you do. And yeah, that's our business too.
Right, and I don't know what that would look like when you talk earlier about that, if you're talking more of a strategic plan, or if you're talking about this type of CIP, because I would be unfamiliar on how you put something beyond 5 years into a 5-year CIP plan. So,
well, and if you say in your strategic plan, community policing at a level we don't have it now is important to us. Well, that's going to make some difference in the kind of equipment you need, make some difference in how you do lots of things.
Right, we're just talking about 2 separate things. You're talking about a CIP versus a longer term strategic plan.
Well, they go together.
What I'm saying is, I don't know how do you put a longer term thing in a 5-year CIP plan?
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is if the fire department said, we got to have a North Station, you know, we have to have one. I mean, it's gotten to the point where we can't do without one. Well, that's not just a CIP issue. That's a bigger issue, and the commission has to be involved in that.
Well, if it puts your mind at ease, I'm not going to go out get a new building going without you. So,
well, and what if the commission said a new building is important, and we would like to move in that direction?
Then I would need to understand what is needed of me as far as that process would go, or where the chief is.
We would say, get us a new building.
Right.
Or you know, maybe you should start to introduce that into the CIP process.
Yeah.
If you said it's fixable, then I don't see why it'd be a problem for us to at least know what you're submitting to CIP. I'm not by no way micromanaging or anything, but it is something that's directly underneath us.
Right.
And this is good. I mean, it's clean. I don't mind finding out today what they did yesterday. I mean, we weren't involved with it up to this point, and I'm glad that it went smooth for you.
Yeah, that to me is not micromanaging. That's just simply what information do you want to know, and I'm actually happy to provide it.
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, I agree with Andy. I think you need a continuum here. That, you know, it's not just CIP, it's a continued improvement plan How are we going to improve staff? How are we going to improve our equipment? Well, if we get to building issues, that gets into a whole nother ballgame. Because one of the things that we may not do is construct buildings. We can have input on buildings, but the commission does nothing with construction. That's the Department of Public Works and the Board of Public Works. And now, there's something else. This is in regards to the CIP committee. Let's just take a look at what we're dealing with. We have a fire department headquarters, a police department, we have a police department garage, we have a fire department training center, and we also have a police department range, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We have two very expensive fleets of vehicles. We also have large manpower. Either directly or as an ex officio member, we need somebody on the CIP committee. We have control of some of the largest assets in the city. And we don't have anybody that sits on the CIP committee, either
Bill,
formally or.
there is no longer a CIP committee.
Well, we need somebody on the CIP that helps to review this aside from having it come to us.
It goes directly to finance, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the way that CIP changed a couple of years ago is department heads basically submit their CIP and then we all come together and Dan Connect pretty much takes the lead on CIP. He's totally revamped it. And between him, Ron Owen, and Steve Barg, they say, you know, we have to cut $1 million out of CIP to get to what our borrowing is. And then it's lately. So, you know, go through every item and, you know, how important is this in your CIP? How important is this? And you start whittling down until the point where it's acceptable. But yeah, there is no CIP committee anymore. And then from there, it goes to 2 to 3 hearings with the council, and then final approval council.
How's that work out for you? For the department heads?
This year worked out fine.
I thought it was really simple.
Yeah.
I was on the CIP committee when they ended it. Now, I don't know that there's a cause and effect relationship, but I didn't like that they ended it because it seemed to me it took away another avenue for community members to have input and to be involved. But there is no CIP committee anymore. It goes to personnel and finance.
See, and this disturbs me simply based upon what this commission has charge of. I mean, other than utilities, there isn't a department that is this independent. And we're missing out of that process.
So we have we have representation with the 2 chiefs.
Well, we don't have representation in the governing body. That's the part that disturbs me.
I think, you know, just listening to this conversation, when you look at something like, you know, this job posting or your process, and I don't know if you do this with other chiefs, maybe you can answer this, but some sort of a sit down with you as a body with your expectations would have been incredibly helpful. As far as what information do you want to know, I was somewhat in and out of that with Rick, but like I said, I'm happy to provide information. I know you and I have talked, Mike. I don't want to get to the point where it's overload, but if there's something that I'm missing that you want to know as a commission, you're not going to offend me by asking a question or saying, hey, next time send this to me. I don't know that I ever got any type of set parameter on what any of you really want to know from me. So.
In regards to the CIP or anything?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
You know, and again, I don't want to take too much of people's time. But when I went up on campus, began work up there, I realized that I would get calls about the campus and things that needed to be done on the campus or things that needed to be whatever. And I told the business manager who was responsible, I wanted a master key. Because I would get a call from a music instructor who needed to get in for a recital and had no key, and she didn't know who to call. So she called me, and that's fine. But I needed a key. And then I found out months later that the guy had given me what they called a neutered master. It didn't open all the doors. It only opened some of the doors. Well, we had a talk about that, and I wound up with a full master key. If you're responsible for it, you need to be able to deal with it. And we're responsible for the administration and management of the police and fire departments. And in my head, that means if it influences what you guys have to do, you get a new building, it's not just a new building. It's new procedures, it's new processes, it's maybe new people. And I'm not talking just building, I'm talking about the training center. You want to put money into the training center. Well, I think it's a good idea, but that's a facility. If you want to build a Taj Mahal out there, that's my business. Somehow we've got to have, say yes, nod your head. All she does is smile.
There's a lot to be said for knowing ahead of time. I guess that's where my question came in initially, was that, you know, it's like I said, it's nice that this is what they approved and we'll move forward. But if there was some simple way to do it prior to the CIP being submitted, so we could maybe even have some input on it or provide support for you.
It is very simple, and I think it goes back to, you know, manage the department, consider the day-to-day activities, is buying a vehicle a day-to-day activity. And that's when I go back to what are the expectations of you as a police and fire commission. My job here in the interim is to make this better for the next person. And what I'm telling you is I think that that's some sort of a sit down and a collaboration of expectations, I think would be very, very helpful as far as what do you view as a day-to-day operation? What do you view as a long-term commission business? Because that's been a very gray line to me in the last year. I don't know where the prior chief walked that. I was intermittently in and out of that, but I absolutely understand, you know, the place in this and the optional powers PFC. But I think that would be very helpful moving forward is a definition of a day-to-day operation versus, you know, a Taj Mahal. So food for thought.
We'll work with you on that.
Yeah.
And I think just one more, talking about the budget, because it is a new finance software this year, the departments have no input. We're not doing the first pass of the budget. Normally we get the budget, we go into forecaster and we'll put, you know, we need to increase this, we need to decrease that, whatever we want to put in our stuff. This year, finance is doing the first pass. They're putting all of that data in, and then anything that we need an increase in or request has to go on a separate sheet, which will be sent up to finance and city administrator for approval. So the budget, when you see it next month, will not be in its final form. I've asked that question, and you will have at least the first pass of the budget. But because it's a new system and a new process, it's, quite frankly, I'm a little nervous about the budget myself this year.
I am too, and that might be something that we might need to have Ron Alman at maybe one of those meetings to try to walk you through better, because it is going to be a learning experience for us, and I'm not entirely sure what that will be like either.
Well, you remember what happened last year?
I went out and sick.
Well, I found out that the city administrator was looking at the budget and cutting stuff out of the fire and police department. He was making the decisions about how the budget should be adjusted to meet the constraints of the city's financial situation. And I went to him and told him no. That he can tell me that there's $1 million got to come out, But he doesn't decide whether we don't buy a new car or whether we don't do this or we don't fix the doors. That's the commission's business.
Right.
And he agreed with that.
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
You have been around long enough to know.
Well, and I'm remembering back, I probably remember back that far. I think Ron Kissinger was city attorney. And the question came up about acquiring a fax machine for the police department. They used to go down to Speedy Print. Well, send the faxes from there.
What a good idea.
And what happened is that somebody on the council objected. And city attorney that time came back and said, hold it. That money is theirs. They can spend it if they want to. And I think something of the same issue here. We're going to reduce the budget. So we can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said to Steve last year, and Steve understood and he agreed. And so those cuts were made by the department. They weren't made by Steve. It might have been the same cuts, but he made the decision for it.
Yeah, so what I'm anticipating is you'll get the first pass of that budget. And then I'll also be submitting, which I'm sure Pat will as well, the separate document of our requests for increases and additions. So that you can see exactly what we're shooting for. Because we do have increases, you know, we're increasing maintenance budgets and other certain line item budgets because we have to, because costs are going up. But so you'll see a couple of documents, but not the final. Until
We have to be on top of that. We are well, drawing a line in the sand. Because things do change. It's sad to see the budget process change through the years to where we used to sit up in front of and went over every little thing with the city council. It wasn't an administrator's recommended budget. It was, you were a police and fire commission, you sat in front of the council and you justified everything going on and on and on for night after night after night.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Oh, yeah. But it's then the administrators go on. And it's evolving again now with the new process and everything. So gotta learn to go with the changes and stuff.
Right.
It is every opportunity we can have to have our input or the public's input into something is important, because the most important thing the city process is the budget. If you know the budget, you know what's going to happen in the city for the next 365 days. So I always look forward to it. As cumbersome as it was, but it was, if you want to know anything about the city, look at the budget. And it is just a document, really. It's a guide to what we're going to do for the next year. But I guess we got a little way from but it was included as part of the capital improvement process. So thanks for your input, everybody. We'll see what we can do to keep the communications open and keep the process going. So being no other business before the commission and hearing no objections, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.